All right, a long history between these two great players. LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, 3 finals appearances, 1 incredible championship with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Could there be more in store? Mark Medina, covering the Lakers for NBA.com, joins us now. And Kyrie to the Lakers, rejoining LeBron James, that would just be great content. It's always great content in LA, by the way. But how realistic are those chances?
Well, no doubt it's going to be great content, but is that a good thing or a bad thing? Look, it's realistic in the sense that the Lakers aren't really competing against other teams to get Kyrie Irving because of, his past with his availability, his leadership. There hasn't really been a market for Kyrie. But, I think the Lakers philosophically are wrestling, or will have to wrestle with assorting what are the best of 2 bad options. And that might sound weird given the playing credentials of Kyrie Irving and Russell Westbrook. But the reality is you don't know what you're going to get from an availability standpoint of leadership with Kyrie Irving. And with Russell Westbrook, you know what you're going to get with availability, but you don't know what you're going to get from an on-court fit with LeBron James, Anthony Davis. So I think that they have to sort those things through and see what would give them the best chances, relatively speaking, to have a much better season than last year.
When you talk about those 4 players right there, last year we saw it. I mean, perfect example. That roster was so flawed. What kind of fit would Kyrie be on this roster in your mind?
Well, from a basketball fit, it's seamless. He has history with LeBron James. He's still one of the best point guards in the NBA. From an X's and O's standpoint, I don't think there's any question about what the fit is. For all his flaws during his time in Brooklyn, when he was on the basketball floor, it was great. I think it's more of the other issues. On one hand, I think that, the Lakers have a better locker room situation because of LeBron James's leadership, that they could absorb, maybe some unintended drama that happens Kyrie's way. But, they have so many roster issues, and they also need guys that are going to be available on a night-to-night basis because of their injury history. I think those are the things that they have to sift through. But again, you're looking at Russell Westbrook, where even if the Lakers, have talked about feeling optimistic that he's going to have a much better season with playing with Anthony Davis, playing with LeBron James more than 21 games, and that he's going to be willing to sacrifice his role under Darvin Ham, I think that's much easier said than done, just both given Russ's style of play and just how he's taken feedback from the past, most notably last season with the Lakers.
Even with potentially Kyrie coming over, and you talk about this dynamic with Russell Westbrook and what he would have to do, does Anthony Davis still remain the X factor here? Like, if he's healthy and he's the old Anthony Davis, then this thing can kind of work out.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that can overcome certain things, whether it's Russell Westbrook's on-court play or Kyrie Irving's, issues as far as his availability. But the reality is Anthony Davis's injury history is his injury history. So you almost have to suspect that he's not going to be available on certain nights. But I think, it is still fair to say that while injuries are a part of, the game and things can happen, there is a feeling that Anthony Davis could do more in terms of his training regimen and his rehab approach to make sure that he's maximizing his fortunes of not only avoiding injuries, but being able to come back a lot quicker when that happens. And look, they're only 2 years removed from winning an NBA championship. I don't think the Lakers are close to that standpoint, but just from a chemistry perspective between LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they're 2 peas in a pod. So relatively speaking, those 2 elements can overcome whatever deficiencies there are with Kyrie and Russ. But at the end of the day, the Lakers roster from top to bottom has a lot of holes. They could only really use their taxpayer mid-level exception at $6.5 million, gain Lonnie Walker, and then they signed a few other guys on veterans minimum deals. So even in the best case scenarios, the Lakers are still going to have a challenging season.
Yeah, it would be an incredible story, a very interesting dynamic in Los Angeles. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
I mean, how do you feel about this? Because, again, you go from now Kyrie and KD to Kyrie back with LeBron James. They have their own personal history. And then you look at this roster, as Mark had mentioned, it is flawed. You got Russell West. There's a lot to figure out, even though Kyrie is a phenomenal basketball player, and you could just kind of throw him in.
Listen, he's an incredible player, plus he can shoot, which would, quell some of the issues that the Lakers had last season. There is a history of his ability to play with LeBron. But absent Anthony Davis, I don't think it makes them contenders. I think if Anthony Davis is on that roster, they have the chance. Because even though they've made some minor signings here early on, they're addressing areas of need. And Ryan, you know this. Like, the regular season, you got to get through it. So you need bodies, and you need people that can come out and help you win games over the course of the regular season. And that's what they didn't have a year ago. I think that's something else that they have to address. But listen, I think it makes sense if you're the Lakers to try and pull the trigger on that deal. And if you're boss Brooklyn, depending on what happens with KD, it might make sense to take a chance with a guy like Westbrook.
I think it's certainly something I do in the Lakers front office, bringing in Kyrie Irving for Russell Westbrook for all the reasons you mentioned. The shooting, he's younger than Westbrook. I don't see why it makes sense for Brooklyn. So I think the Lakers would have to try to incentivize. And keep in mind, guys, they still owe a first-round pick and a first-round pick swap to the Pelicans due to the Lakers from the Anthony Davis deal. So that's the challenge. Another factor that works against the Lakers is Westbrook makes about $10 million more a year than Kyrie Irving does. Brooklyn's a tax team. So I understand that Kyrie wants to be in L.A., and I understand why the Lakers would want him, but I think they may need to get another team involved where Westbrook goes somewhere else if Kyrie is going to come in. Because keep in mind, just earlier this week, Kyrie was given permission by the Nets to survey the market and see if there's a sign and trade. He didn't really like what he heard. So I think the market is not what people externally outside of the league, Greg, may think it is for Westbrook and Kyrie. Given Westbrook's contract, given Kyrie's issues, there may be a limited market. So I think the trade could be more challenging than some people anticipate.
Well, to incentivize Brooklyn and to get Westbrook out, do you think the Lakers, who don't want to give up some of those draft picks, would do that in order to get Westbrook out?
I think they should. Honestly, I think they should. Kyrie's younger than Westbrook. He shoots the ball better. But if I'm Brooklyn, again, I don't love the fit at all with Westbrook and Simmons there, the lack of shooting there. So player for player, that's not a fit for me. So, I want draft picks. I want pick swaps and things like that if I'm in the Nets front office. But yeah, I think if you're the Lakers, look, LeBron James is going to turn 38 years old here in a few months. You need to do whatever you can to try to win a championship. A motivated Kyrie Irving alongside LeBron and Anthony Davis, I think would be tremendous if they can pull it off.
Yeah, and again, Kyrie Irving saying he wanted kind of a redo of what happened in Cleveland. If he gets this opportunity, all eyes on him, and that roster, if it works, could be very interesting to watch. Zion Williamson looks like he's going to be in New Orleans for a lot longer. We got that story coming up. All right, welcome back. Zach LaVine agreeing to a 5-year deal for $215 million to stay in Chicago. He averaged over 24 points per game while shooting high percentage from both the field and the three. And this was a legendary way to say, hey, I'm staying in Chi-Town.
You know what? I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
And you say Chi City? I'm not leaving. The show goes on.
I just love that meme. You can put that in any situation. It's always fun to watch. But for Zach LaVine, listen, man, this guy came over from Minnesota. He's really flourished. 2-time All-Star now. And it just seems like the perfect fit, GA, for him to go back to that team that for, 3/4 of the year was very good.
Yeah, I think it was a no-brainer on both sides. I think that Zach was comfortable there, liked what this team was building, but for the injuries. And he still has his best basketball ahead of him. This is a young man that really loves the game, works at it. I think he and DeRozan really meshed well together. Their chemistry was pretty evident. And if they're healthy, I think this bodes well for them to have a chance to be in the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference. Still going to be a challenge, even healthy, but I do think that the Chicago Bulls are trending in the right direction.
And that's what the Bulls front office and ownership feels as well. They were 27-11 last year before the injuries that set in, especially in the backcourt. The injuries to Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball really hurt their defense. Alex Caruso, instead of LaVine was injured. But they're defensively, they weren't as good at the point of attack. The injuries, thinned out their depth as well. So they want to see what they have now with a full complement on their roster with Ball, LaVine, and DeRozan. That's a formidable approach on the perimeter. So they have talent, they have depth, and what they're betting is the team we saw in the first half of last season was the actual Bulls team, not the team that we saw limp to the finish line and struggle in the playoffs.
So what are they missing to get into that upper echelon? Because it took a little while. Nikola Vucevic really got a more prominent role in those